Hi, welcome to the part 2 of this video series. We are looking at real certification questions for AWS Solution Architect Associate. If you go through these concepts, you will 100% pass the exam. The key is to focus on the concepts. Please subscribe to my channel if you are dead serious about a career in cloud. This channel is dedicated to AWS and Azure certifications. For questions 1 to 5, please refer the part 1 of this video series. Let's jump into the questions. Question number 6. Please pause the video to read the question carefully. Please identify your own keywords. See, there is a company which has a web application and it has a lot of subscribers and it sends weather data to these subscribers. And where is this web application keeping its data? It's keeping in DynamoDB. Now what you want to do is you want to add some more features. You have 4 teams, so you want to send these team managers alert services if there are weather data getting recorded. I hope you understood the question. So if you see the question here, you see this keyword minimum feasible operational overhead. You have to minimize the operational overhead. So whatever options you choose out of these 4, it should be minimizing the operational overhead. What it means is instead of doing one task in 3 steps, if you have an option to do it in 2 steps, you should use that option. Okay, so this is the key. Let's scan through the options. The first one says on-demand capacity mode. This looks to be a potential answer because the question says that whenever you are adding the new feature, you sending alerts, you should not impair the operation of the present application. So this is your present application, and what you are doing is you are adding this piece. Okay, so when you add this piece, it should not affect the performance of the first piece. That is the basic ask. So on-demand capacity mode will work the best here because it will scale up and scale down whenever it is required. It's basically on demand. So what does on demand do is you do not need to do any capacity planning. It will be charged on pay per request. Okay, you remember this one, minimum feasible operational overload. This is what on demand is, just one setting and it is minimum operational overhead. So A is my answer, but let's look at other options. The second one says use global secondary index. See, this is when this is useful is when you want to fire some lot of queries, big queries, small queries on a table, then it is useful. For example, you have to do a scan of a table and you are creating some leaderboard applications, like who was the leader. Suppose you have a gaming application, you want to show these are the top 3 people who have scored the most. If you want to hit that, you want that kind of insight and hit this table, then indexes will help you out. Here the use case is saying is you will, whenever a new weather event is occurring, so the data is not there in this DynamoDB database, a new event will happen, a new data will be captured, and then you have to send alerts to these 4 teams. So option B is wrong. Option C, they suggest, in fact C and D both says use provision capacity mode. So provision capacity mode is what? Suppose you are a chef in a kitchen, okay, and you know that every day you are making, most of the time you are making veg dishes where you are using very less onions. So usually vegetarian dishes, they take less onion. But suddenly what happens is you get 4-5 customers who are saying, boss, I need to eat some chicken to piazza. Suddenly you will require these many onions. Now what will you do? You will go to the market, send someone to the market, and you will have to fetch the onions. Only then you can make chicken to piazza. But there are so many steps involved and you want minimum feasible, less number of steps. So C is wrong. Let's look at D. See, going to the market and getting onion is equivalent to auto scaling. So it will first understand, okay, I don't have enough onions, then I need to request someone to go to the market, then someone will go to the market, fetch, bargain, and then come back. So there are so many steps involved. So C is wrong. Let's look at D. D is saying that you use capacity mode and configure it as a global table. See, capacity mode will never work because how it works is, see, take this onion example. If I have 2 onions, I will not go to the market. But if I see that I have already utilized one and I just have one remaining, I'll go to the market and get 2 more onions. So that is a target kind of thing. In provision mode, it will constantly compare with the target, and the moment you see that the target will be breached, so you try to scale up. And what is a global table used for? Suppose across the globe you want to use that table in DynamoDB, so then you have to use a global table. Is there a need for the global table? No, because the question doesn't say so, and therefore option D is wrong. We have our final answer as option A. We'll move to the next question. Question number 7. Pause this video here, read this carefully, identify your own keywords. See, there is a DynamoDB database, an application is using it, and during flash sales, there is a lot of pressure. Simple. What can be an example of flash sale? For example, Christmas. A lot of retailers during Christmas, they will put flash sales. Due to flash sales, what happens? More transactions happens because more customers come to your shop physically, or they do online shopping in JCPenney or some other websites like Amazon.com or Flipkart.com. Hence, due to sales, more people come to buy, and during these flash sales, the pressure on the DynamoDB is very high. That's our simple story here. And what happens due to this pressure being high? The business loses transactions because the database it operates normally during regular hours, but during these flash sales it is unable to manage the volume of transactions. See, if you have a team and you have one person, and that one person is unable to manage, what will you do? You will add one more person. So this guy is alone, not able to manage it, so we add this guy also. Now we have two persons in the team and the load will be shared. Similar to that example, out of these four options, we will have to choose one option. See, thumb rule, always remember, whenever you face this scenario and DynamoDB is not coping up, just make DynamoDB on demand. Put it in on demand mode during flash sales and it will solve your problem. So we got our answer. The option B talks about DynamoDB accelerator. See, this is not a DAX use case. DAX, why it is used to enable enhanced caching. And when does caching helps? When you have the data saved and the number of people are accessing the same data. So caching will help because the cache will hold the data. But here, every transaction is a new transaction. See, when does DAX sit is on top of the database, it is used for in-memory caching, in-memory cache for Amazon DynamoDB, and it improves the performance 10 times, and it will only do it if you have a lot of reads and less of writes. So B is wrong. Let's look at C. Use Kinesis. See, if you have a web application and DynamoDB, then Kinesis sits in between. It will hold the transactions because DynamoDB is, suppose DynamoDB can handle 50 transactions, and the web applications, the number of users are very high. It has sent 100 transactions, so 50 will be processed by DynamoDB. It will be under process, and Kinesis will hold the remaining 50. But this will still not give the performance that is required, because though you will not lose those transactions, but the performance will not be there because the end user will still have to wait until the DynamoDB has processed its data. Hence C is wrong. On the same lines, D is also wrong because SQS would also sit in between, and it will hold the transactions, and it will create a queue. It will send the transactions in queues depending upon how much DynamoDB can take. See, in order to solve this problem, we will have to enhance the capacity of DynamoDB. Just adding one person who will maintain a register. Suppose you add, instead of adding one more worker, like here we added one more worker, if we add a team lead who will maintain a register and say, okay, once that guy is done, I will send him more work, it will not work. That only works in your Indian IT companies, Infosys, Wipro, TCS. It doesn't work here. You have to add a worker and not a team lead or a project manager. Kinesis and SQS will act as your team lead or a project manager. It will not act as a worker. So D is wrong. We have our final answer as A. Let's move forward. Question number 8. So you may pause this video here. So you have a web application. There are two tiers, web tier and database tier. These are the two tiers, and web tier is susceptible to XSS attacks or cross scripting attacks. So how you can address this vulnerability? See, classic load balancer no longer is used, so this answer is straight away wrong. Let's choose between NLB and ALB. This is, whenever you talk about web application, we are talking about HTTP, HTTPS. These are, here in this case it is layer 7. We use application load balancer and not NLB. So in our case we want to use ALB because of this reason. So we have established B is wrong. Let's look at C. C looks correct because it will use ALB and it will enable WAF. First of all, WAF is called, full form is Web Application Firewall. It helps protect your application against security compromises, and it helps you against SQL injection and cross-site scripting. So C is correct. D tells you to use AWS Shield standard instead of WAF. See, if you need DDoS protection, you use Shield. Okay. So what is DDoS? See, any attack which will overwhelm your website, it will create fake traffic using bots. It will create fake traffic. Instead of one user logging in, it will log in with say 100,000 users, and your website will come down. So Shield will protect you against that attack. It will not protect you against cross-site scripting, and hence D is wrong. C is our answer. Let's look at question 9. Please pause this video and identify your keywords. See, you have a database and it stores some things which you can search. This is the application. Every day there are millions of changes to this data, and the organization found that it takes 10 seconds or more, and concluded that the bottleneck was database storage performance. So this is the bottleneck they know. Now to help with the performance, out of these four, let's scan option A. It says use IOPS SSD. You see this documentation says use SSD IO2 and IO1 for latency sensitive workloads. Latency sensitive means fast retrieval or fast commit, fast write, fast read, fast write. So we got our answer. Let's still see B, C and D. This is suitable for in-memory databases like HANA. Why? Because HANA takes a lot of data in memory and does processing in memory. So if you have something like Tableau getting reported, you can make this database change the instance. But in this use case, there is no need of doing that. There is nothing here which says that in-memory processing is required. All processing has to be in the database. So you have to change the storage type and not the instance type. So option C suggests use burstable performance DB instance class. So burstable performance will enhance your CPU performance. The question clearly says there is a problem with database storage. So you have to change the storage type and not the instance type. So C is wrong. Option D suggests to use multi-AZ RDS read replicas with asynchronous replication. When you create a replica, the replication takes time. So each time our data is entered in the primary database, that is this one, the data will also have to go to this read replica, which will not solve the problem that this database already has. So you have to solve the problem of this database. So D is wrong, A is right. Let's look at question 10. You may pause this video and read this carefully. See, you have some sensitive documents and data, for example, contract documents, and only workers who have rights can access it. They should be authorized individuals. Now, data must be safely downloaded to workers' devices. This is a requirement. So the worker should be able to download this data on his or her device, maybe a laptop in this case. So these data, contracts or so on, are in a Windows file system, and this file system capacity is going down as load increases. Now, keeping these constructs in mind, we have to choose one answer from these four. Let's look at option A. So whenever you see a file server, okay, and you are saying migrated to EC2 instance, EC2 is not the right place for replacing a file server. So A is totally wrong. If you want to replace a file server, you can do it either in FSX or bring it in object store like S3. So A is totally wrong. Now let's look at B. It says you use FSX and integrate it with AD. What AD will do is workers, they will have their own username and password. Using that only they can access this FSX. So since the existing system was on Windows, it's a Windows file server. So FSX for Windows makes sense. See, FSX alone is for Linux, but FSX for Windows is for Windows. It makes sense. But this is a normal mechanism. Any data you will access is through AD. This is secret and confidential data. You will have to do something extra. So B is wrong. Let's look at C. So what C is doing is it is doing something extra. See, the files it can fit in object store. S3 is an object store. It's not a one-on-one file system replacement, but S3 will work. No problem with that. It will create a private VPC. It's more secure. And what you're doing is creating a signed URL to allow download. That means only people who have access will get a signed URL. Only they can download it. So it is double secured. Option B was one-time secured, only through AD. Here it is double secured. Hence C is correct. Let's still look at D. What D says is you use S3, but they are saying use single sign-on. All employees have a single sign-on, use that. Single sign-on is not as trusted as signed URLs. Hence D is wrong. C is the right answer. Please subscribe to my channel. I am putting a lot of hard efforts to help people find this information useful to clear their certifications. Please go through this playlist, which is on AWS Solution Architect Associate. It is still relevant. There are 14 videos, lot of questions there, close to 80 or 90 questions. Please go through them. Plus, there are so many other playlists to help you out with other certifications on Azure and AWS. Please remember, this channel is totally dedicated to help you with cloud certifications on AWS and Azure. This brings us to the end of part 2. I'll be posting many more such videos. So stay tuned. See you in the next part. The link to the other playlist of AWS Solution Architect Associate is in the comments and the description section of this video. You can click and directly go there.